Aren't those something?
Yeah, we thought they were gonna be big when
Well,
they combined. There was three, and then they combined
Yeah.
two.
yeah,
Still
and
got
there,
a big house.
but there's two houses. One is in what they call the Ames family cabin, weekend cabin. Yeah, that's the big one.
The one on the left?
Yeah, one on the left.
That's the guy at the construction.
Yeah, right, from Burnsville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ready?
All right, I would like to call the meeting to order for the Nisswa Planning Commission Board of Adjustment for Tuesday, March 7th, 2023. Roll call, please.
Jesse Zone. Danny Mendel.
Sean Weldon.
Josh Young,
Gary Harris.
Dave Reese.
Maggie Wentler.
Bethany Soderland.
are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Being none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
I'll second. All those in favor? All those opposed, motion carries. Next, to approve the meeting minutes for February 7th, 2022. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes?
None.
Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Next item is an open forum. Is there anyone present tonight that would like to speak towards something not on the agenda? All right, moving on to public hearings. I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Okay, first item is ordinance amendment 004-23 to adopt an ordinance amendment modifying chapter 20 of the Nisswa Code of Ordinances regarding land use and development within the city of Nisswa. Bethany.
Good evening, Planning Commission, City Councilman. Welcome to Danny Mendel. This is his first night on the Planning Commission. We welcome you to the City of Nisswa and to the Planning Commission. I've provided 3 different copies of the proposed ordinance. One is a clean copy, which shows what the proposed ordinance will look like. One is a copy that has the strike-throughs and the markups. And then one is a copy that provides the comment that the DNR supplied to us. I've also included just a general outlines of both the proposed ordinance and the existing ordinance for your reference. Chris Pence is here tonight to answer any questions that anybody might have. And we are seeking that you recommend approval to the City Council.
Chris, do you want to go to either the podium or the table so we are able to shoot some? Thank you. Bethany, could you go over, so we had a meeting about this the last time. Can you go over kind of what we're doing tonight? Giving a brief overview of, I know we kind of went over it.
Process in May of last year, just reviewing and revising the shoreland ordinance and how it, the ordinance and how it pertains to shoreland. This is the culmination of all of those meetings and all of those efforts. And we are hoping that you will recommend approval to go before the City Council in 2 weeks.
Okay. If you'd like to make a public comment regarding this project, please step towards the podium and state your name and address.
Dave Anderson, 920 Bass Lake Road in Lakeshore, Minnesota. Not far from this, so about 250 feet, but close enough. Anyway, Commissioner Young, council members on and commission members, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak tonight. Very short thing I have to say. First of all, I want to recognize Mr. Pence and Ms. Sutherland for the wonderful work they've done. That's many, many hours, I'm sure, of hard work to make this come together. And I tried to read it. You have to be in that field to be able to really get a handle on what was there. But overall, I really appreciate your paying close attention to shoreline developments. We have seen so much of that around the area, and we only have one set of lakes. They're only here for as long as we protect them. And so I think it's important that you're taking those steps to protect our lands. And it's never, in my case, ever been not in my backyard on things. It's about protecting the lake. And so that's what, and the lakes, and that's what makes this area special, is our lakes. So there are 2 of our neighbors that had worked on this diligently for the last year. It's been a year since they started coming to these meetings, and they couldn't be here tonight for very solid reasons. But Paul Rasmussen and Brad Berkland both worked really hard to try and get things together. And you've seen letters from them, and they're trying to be as good as they can be to make things right. So Paul did send along a message he wanted me just to pass along, and I'll quote him. I wish I could be there to ask the committee to be proactive and adopt standards that meet today's challenges, not simply adopt the standards that catch up to the standards of other jurisdictions, which may themselves be outdated, end quote. So he just wanted to make sure the thoughts were in there about, are we just doing this to match, or could we even do better? And why not? Why not set an example for the county and for the state that we can do this well? So that's basically what I've got to say. Thank you all for your hard work and everybody, and thank you, commission members. I hope you'll approve this and we can go forward from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Steve Frawley, and I'm here representing the Gull Chain of Lakes Association, where I serve as the chair. And I just wanted to kind of augment what Dave has just said in that, our mission, we have basically more than 1,000 Gull Chain of Lake Association members, being one of the larger lake associations throughout the state of Minnesota. And, we're quite concerned about the growing development that's been taking place, how developers are sometimes encroaching on wetlands areas and other areas to build new developments. And this is a trend that we've seen more and more of lately. And we're concerned because our mission at Jacola is to help make sure that we conserve and protect our lakes and the quality of our water. And we also understand the significant economic development and with all the property taxes that landowners are paying. And so we're concerned about this development if it gets out of hand and causes environmental issues that don't turn out well for everybody involved. So I would just like to say I'm here today, as is Dave, to provide support for making changes and bringing the land ordinance usage language up to speed so that it makes sense and helps us protect our environment and ecosystems as we move into the next generation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.
Any other questions, comments?
Hello, I wasn't sure when I was supposed to come up here, but
You could state your name.
yes, my name is Joanne Dalton and I just purchased a property on October 20th in 2022. It is a lot that is located on the end of Birch Street on the cul-de-sac. It's right kind of behind the park here. And I've been working with Bethany and she's been trying to explain the process of all the things that need to be worked through. She's doing a great job with that. I appreciate it. And one issue that's come up for me that when I purchased the property, I understood that you could have an RV on the property. And because I don't have a residential dwelling on the property, then I am not allowed, according to this new proposed 2148 temporary structure ordinance, that I would not be able to have my RV there. When I purchased the property, there was an RV there and people were living there. So I understood that I was able to do that. My intentions are to build something on the property. So because it was late October and it's kind of hard to walk around in the snow and have people come out to check out your property, I haven't really had a chance to have a thorough examination of what I have and how to move forward. The first step is probably just to work on the property itself and clean the trees up that have been neglected and, just try to figure out a layout and, get some contractors in there. I've been working with a bank for a construction loan and also a contractor at this time. So it's going to take me some time. But since I'm new here and I just want to introduce myself and tell you, this is my first obstacle. And I don't know, if you have this section 120, 148 in front of you. There's A through E. And under A, my issue is that what I understand from Bethany, did you guys find this? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'll find it, Joanne.
Well, I mean, so they know what I'm talking
Yep.
about. Okay, they're saying that you can have your RV on the property for 7 days and then you have to move it off the property. And that was not my intentions when I bought the property. My intentions were to be there so that I could work on the property. And it won't be the end of the world if you guys pass this, but it would make an extreme hardship for me. I have had a cancer diagnosis and chemo and radiation. Walking on uneven ground is really hard for me. So setting up and taking down every 7 days of an RV for a 24-hour period and going back there and resetting up is going to be difficult. So good thing is I'm in recovery and it's almost 5 years. So I just just wanted to throw that in there. And then B, I'm okay with. C, the permit is only going to be issued to people with principal dwellings. So that's something that won't work for me. D, I'm okay with. And E, a permit may be issued for the use of temporary in conjunction with a valid permit for a dwelling. So if I were to get a permit, once I get my construction loan and they file for a permit to build, how long will that permit be for? Is it, who determines that?
The permit for the temporary structure would not expire. However, the land use permit would expire after 2 years.
Yeah, so I
Mhm.
have to get the house built in 2 years.
Correct,
Is what you're
yeah.
saying,
Yeah.
which is very feasible. So I think that's plenty of time to get that done.
And that's why we put that provision in there, is
Sure,
to understand
sure.
that people may want to be on their property while the house is being built.
Sure.
Mhm.
So I appreciate, and I understand, but I just also wanted to bring this up that this is, if something changes and I'm not aware of it, I just don't want to see that I have a property up here that I can't use. That would make no sense. And so I'm here today to just try to ask you to at least extend the 7 days to 14 days in between moving it. That would limit some work for me. I really struggle with that. I don't know if I need to apply with a different type of permit to have that extension, or this is a general ordinance for the whole community. I understand that.
Correct.
So
yeah.
I'm not quite sure where I fall under there, if there's any special provisions. So anybody got anything to add to this? Questions?
Bethany, would that be eligible for a variance request?
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
that would probably be my recommendation. I don't know what Bethany would have to say. But that's, variance requests are for special accommodations like this where things come up. So that would be my
Okay.
recommendation, but I'll have to.
And
lean
we have
towards those.
discussed conditional use permits and land use permits and all these different permits. This is new to me, so I'm trying to keep up with her. But maybe she brought this up already and we can talk
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, and we spoke many times. One of the items was Nisswa wants temporary structures to remain temporary, not permanent residence. And that's why these provisions are presented here tonight. But as far as, like you said, in a case-by-case scenario, this would be something where you could possibly you could seek a variance, but it could possibly be
Right.
approved. Mhm.
And then I did apply for a land use permit, so I've got that temporarily. But
Yes.
things will
Yep.
move on from there.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So.
So thank you very much.
Any other questions, comments?
Did you want anything addressed from the letters that we received, or did you want to discuss any of those? We'd be happy to answer any of those questions that you may have.
Yeah, would you like to go through some of the letters? I mean, we read them. I just don't know the format on how you would like to do that.
This is a letter that we received from Paul Rasmussen. He discusses the 12% slope threshold, and he requests that it should not be changed. He also mentions the boardwalk standards and riparian use areas. The structure setback with fringe wetland measured from OHW and stormwater management standards. Brad Berkland also mentions a few of these, as does Ann Beaver, so I'll just go through each of these letters and then we'll address each subject.
Okay.
All right, Ann Beaver's comments pertain to the fringe wetland and historic ice ridges and annual ice ridges on our lakes. And then Brad Berkland's is concerning impervious standards and thresholds for stormwater management. The Seward lot standards. Buildable area minimums. The 12% slope rule again. Pervious pavers, steep slope definitions, and then structure setback with fringe wetland measured from OHW.
Chris, did we not discuss the 12% slope? At the last
did.
planning and zoning meeting?
Yeah, and I
Can
think,
you get a brief run through on that, so everybody's on the same page as to what our conclusion were on that?
yeah, I believe what we had talked about at the end was to look at continuing that 12% slope for those shoreline properties, but you eliminate that provision once you got out of the shoreline area.
Correct. And so we made that provision to pertain only to riparian lots.
Right.
Brad Berkland's letter here is requesting that we look at perhaps extending that 12% or keeping that 12% over shoreland lots. So that 20% change would still be in all areas outside of that 1,000 feet. But the 12% would remain for shoreland. So that's up to you. You know, you can recommend approval of something and change anything here tonight as well.
I think that makes sense. That 12% for the shoreline, I think I could agree with that. I could see the reasoning behind it, so.
And we discussed this in depth at last month's meeting,
Mhm. Yep, and then
And-
just the changes.
you know, and going through the discussion again, I don't really see that there would be a point in it, but I think us moving to leaving the 12 at the riparian and 20 for none, and was I think the right thing to do, and I would still stay with that, so.
Perfect.
There was some practical, I mean, as far as building standards, that's what it came down to. In your experience, what is the difference between a 12 and 20 if it's not a non-riparian and
I
as
think
far
what
as
you're-
construction?
I think what you're just trying to do is just protect those riparian lots from that erodibility, you know, and so I think that, you know, makes sense. And you know, obviously, closer you are to the water, closer you want to have a more tighter restrictions, and the further away you get, I think you can loosen them a little bit. So I think it makes sense from that perspective. I really, you know, don't think it's going to have a large impact, frankly, either way, but I think it'll have enough that would probably make it, so.
Comes down to density, number of lots.
Yeah,
that you can get
exactly.
to, yeah.
Yep.
One of the letters, I think it was Mr. Rasmussen, addressed how we this is boardwalks. I'm not sure if I'm jumping ahead, if anybody had any other comments about the 12% versus 20. But how that is determined if the lot is not perpendicular, parallel to the, which obviously happens a lot.
Right.
And he said we should adopt the standards of Crow Wing County, or at least be more explicit with it. I think that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm not sure you need to maybe put that in an ordinance specific, but I think you could adapt. I think that's a lot of it how you administer things. I think that could be in a policy, which is you could use that standard, but I don't think it needs to be in the ordinance. I mean, and it could be, it wouldn't be, something you wouldn't do, but I don't think it's something that you have to do. But I agree with what he's saying, because not all lakes are, they're not made of a box. So you
Right.
do have those interesting shorelines where things can curve and stuff. So I think it can be done through policy, but you can also adopt it through the ordinance too. So
Once again, isn't a lot of that under the surface water ordinance of
the county.
Crow Wing County, and so that's their regulatory authority
Correct,
anyway.
you're already-
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, so they're already
It's-
covering
It's already
part of
there.
it,
Yeah. And you're just saying you're just going to use, from a policy, you're going to utilize that for making the determination. So I think it makes sense.
Okay.
So that's one of the major reasons for our existence is dealing with the unusual,
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
the out of the ordinary property or
When they come here,
situation.
they're typically
much
more
like-
of the difficult properties.
Much,
for you
much
guys to
like
get.
the, talking about her lot over here with the trailer on it, with the RV on it. And
Yep.
and that's what we're here is to deal with those. and
Yeah.
that's all.
You guys get the tough ones.
Well, we're running out of land anyway. The good land's all gone,
Yeah, it's true.
so. The land that's difficult to develop is what's left over now.
It's true.
It's gonna be harder and harder to develop this, and that's
Yeah.
was one of the reasons that our ordinance has been changed and cleaned up, and so,
Absolutely.
it's,
Yeah.
it was too hard to interpret the way it was with the difficulties of the terrain in many cases, so.
Did anybody else have any questions about the 12% of the boardwalks? I'll try to hammer down all the main points that you brought out. Let's,
Good idea.
no. Setbacks,
The setbacks from the OHW versus the fringe wetlands.
okay,
Yeah, if Chris, you want to explain?
Yeah, it'd be absolutely. So, when you look at, wetlands can change the ebb and flow, a wetland delineation report submitted is valid for a 5-year window. If the rainy year, things can grow. When it's dry, things get a little bit smaller. When somebody's gonna want to come to the city of Nisswa, and they're gonna want to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars on a piece of property, they want some regulatory certainty that where they decide to put that is gonna be okay. It won't matter if it's dry or wet, and that's what the OHW provides. And so that is why I strongly recommend you have that setback from the ordinary high water mark and not from a wetland fringe. And there's obviously been some very good, brought up some, the topic of, well, we still want the wetland there because there's a buffer and it provides habitat and all that stuff, which is absolutely true. Just because you pull a setback from the OHW and it's not from the wetland fringe does not preclude you're gonna fill that in, that wetland still can't be touched. I mean, there's very, very, very limited ability to have these sort of wetland packs on the shoreline. And so, I mean, I will still say that OHW setback, there's a reason the DNR requires it and they don't have a wetland fringe when they talk the shoreline rules. OHW regulatory certainty. People need to know that if they're gonna invest money and they're gonna come in and build, some really high quality houses, that where they put it in 10 years, it's still in a conforming location. And that's what OHW provides, regulatory certainty for your landowners and for your developers who come and work in the city.
this is kind of, it's not really a rhetorical question, but so if there is a wetland and it's been delineated by a delineator, what is, just so everybody knows, the setback from Nisswa is a setback from an established wetland that's been delineated with flags.
So the wetland setback in the city of Nisswa is 30 feet. If it is fringe wetland, the lake setback starts at where that fringe wetland and the land meets, lakeward or landward. And so if you have the setback start there, that line that you're measuring from changes. Wetlands don't stay wetlands, they grow, they move, they change. And so what you're doing is that you're trying to standardize a setback based on an always moving parameter.
And at OHW, that's an elevation DNR sets that says this is where city jurisdiction begins and the state jurisdiction starts when you get past that OHW as you move towards out into the lake. So I would recommend OHW setback be what you use for measuring setbacks of the lakes.
Just to review, Crow Wing County's official setback from a wetland, an established wetland, what is it, 10, 50?
15 feet.
Okay. Stormwater management.
In regards to the pervious pavement.
Yeah.
We recommend that we allow 100% pervious paver credit. It helps with stormwater and helps encourage.
Yeah, and it can assist, you know, I've seen it used, not many times. I mean, usually it's used when somebody's pushing up to a variance, that type of a thing. The thing is that when you know, people invest that kind of cost and money into that type of material, you know, to only give a half credit for that, I think is discounting the work that's being going into it. And truth be told, you've got great staff with Bethany who can, you know, stay on top of that and make sure that they're maintaining it and having that just as the ordinance requires it. And the truth is, if they're not, it just became a pervious surface and it became an enforcement issue, and then that's a violation of the ordinance and you have a process for that. So it's not like it's you know, you don't have if it doesn't work the way it's supposed to, there's always a process and procedure to be able to rectify that. But I think giving people credit for that is good, and I've seen it and it works well, and it can be a great it's a great solution to stormwater issues when you have a very tight lot, and when you can put a pervious blacktop or a pervious asphalt or a pervious like a cement on for your driveway and have the water go there and the water goes away. It's great for water quality, and I strongly support it.
David, have you had a lot of experience?
I've seen applications come forth to cities with this. I've seen it range from 50% credit to 100% credit. It really comes down to, as you know, was mentioned, maintenance and following through with requirements that the city has in its ordinance. It does become an enforcement issue. You know, it's I think small lots and having reasonable use of property, it enables that to happen, which is really the spirit and intent of the ordinance that the city's striving to get to for its residents. Helps clean stormwater runoff. But again, it's got to be, it's a man-made facility that needs maintenance. So that has to be in the ordinance.
Exactly.
Any other questions on stormwater? Okay, ice ridges. Sometimes that keys into stormwater management a lot of the times. So what was, Anne touched on ice ridges, but I don't think we really changed a whole lot.
Yeah, ice ridges, we actually have a definition now for ice ridges for both annual and historic. We also have provisions. Up until this point, we hadn't had provisions for the removal of historic ice ridges. That should be a very small amount, and it should be one time per parcel, and not any subsequent removal of any historic ice ridges. In other words, we want to keep the historic ice ridges, and then it gives provisions for how to fix an annual reoccurring ice ridge. So we've presented those performance standards and then given definitions for them as well.
I think Crow Wing County is 15 feet you're allowed.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Did I miss anything, Bethany?
There was some sewer lot sizes, buildable lot standards. I think those are the only two. Just want to make sure we address them all. Yep, those are the last two.
Okay. Buildable lot standards. You want to touch on that real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Your consultant made a mistake when they put this together. I meant to put buildable lot standards when I put in the lot size minimums, and so I think before the meeting, Bethany pulled up what the Crow Wing County currently has for their buildable lot area for newly created lots, not for existing, it's just for new lots that are created. I think she'll pull that up, but it basically gives you a number of when you're talking about creating a lot, what is the actual area, you know, we want to make sure we're creating lots that don't require variances. I mean, at the end of the day, we don't want that to be the case. And so I would recommend just simply using the county's buildable area standards for the GD, RD, and natural environment lakes. And I think we just take a quick look at that when there you go. Yeah. And so if you look, it'd be the third column over. So like on a general development lake, you'd be looking at 30,000 would be the minimum lot area. That's the same thing for Nisswa in your proposed ordinance. And then your minimum buildable area, so that's a single duplex and triplex, but it'd be that third column. So out of a 30,000 square foot lot, at least 12,000 square feet that would have to be buildable, where that would actually meet all setbacks, wouldn't be a wetland, wouldn't be in a bluff, wouldn't be a steep slope, those sorts of things. And then as you go down, you'll see for a non-riparian, you've got just those different numbers. And so it just requires that when new lots are created, there needs to be we're not going to create a lot that's all wetland, and have to come back and get wetland fill, and that we don't want that to happen. We want there to be adequate buildable site for on-site sewage treatment systems, for septics and a well, and for a dwelling for the use of the property. So I would recommend to, as part of your recommendation to council, we do include these numbers as part of the ordinance revision process.
Without digging through this, does the clean copy include that now or
It
not?
does not.
We figured, we just kind of discovered that a little bit ago, so we'll have to get that fixed and get that for the clean copy going, if that's the route you want it to go for the council meeting.
Yeah, currently, we do not have buildable standards. We do not have a set amount that needs to be buildable per se. So that would be up to you if you wanted to include those.
Jesse, you have opinion?
I guess I'd rather see it than not see it. Meet something right now at the head rather than not, but excuse me, I lost my voice. I've been talking too long today. What additional documentation do we have that we can then throw in? Is there any additional verbiage that we need to outline on top of just the actual chart?
Adding
that
a
you just had
buildable
up?
area. I think if you were to approve that tonight with that, you would just say that you approve it with the addition of a buildable area.
Exactly.
Okay, that's
Yep.
fine. That's
Yeah,
good.
absolutely. Yep.
Okay, is everybody fine with that?
Yeah.
Adding that?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah, it's, if we don't have it in, we're kind of taking a step back to the old ordinance where questions come up.
Yeah, and you
You
can
know,
always,
well, it's not addressed in the ordinance, so
if anybody ever asks,
can
why,
I
you
do
can
whatever I
always,
want?
you can always say it was your consultant dropped the ball on that
Yeah.
one. So that one, I meant to put it in, and because we were looking at it tonight, I said, because I saw the letter and I went, no, it's in there. And then we looked, I'm like, ugh, I forgot it. So that was on me.
Yep, and just to confirm that that doesn't apply to already existing parcels. All right, so already existing parcels, legal parcels, maybe not conforming, but as long as they can meet setbacks and as long as, the correct septic system can be installed and all of those provisions are met, people are able to develop those parcels. So that only pertains to having that buildable area required for the development and the creation of
Yeah.
new lots.
This is for
I like that.
new developments.
The
Okay.
existing lots are what they are because they were
Yeah.
approved under a certain ordinance.
Okay.
So
Good, thanks.
Can I make a note, please? Are we adopting Crow Wing County's chart of standards?
Was that what was up?
That's what it sounded like, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want
Yeah,
to make sure as
that-
I'm jotting my
good,
notes down.
Applicable.
good clarification. Yep, exactly. That's what it is. That's the recommendation.
make that note under the motion, whoever makes the motion.
And then the other item is sewered lots versus unsewered lots. This would be different as far as size. Let me
Yeah,
try.
there was just another recommendation that did DNR make a recommendation on sewer lots?
I don't believe they did.
I don't. So another recommendation that came from, I believe it was Brad,
Mhm.
I think made that.
He
just
did some
What
thorough
would like to see
research.
there being a lot standard across the board be your unsewered standard and not have a sewered standard. When I brought this originally to you guys back this summer, earlier this year, I had the same recommendation, but the commission wanted to have that sewered, a smaller lot size for sewered parcels. The only thing to keep in mind is that, when the shoreline rules were drafted in, back in the early, in the eighties there were a lot of sewered areas like Nisswa. We're starting to get sewer areas. So that was a really a big deal and wanted to encourage that. And what we're finding now is that, as much as wastewater treatment is important, it's also stormwater treatment. And so the smaller lots, do make it more of a challenge to try to adequately treat your stormwater runoff. So your call to make, but I think for simplicity purposes, I think it makes sense to use one lot standard and use the unsewered lot standard. But it's definitely within the purview of the city to make your decision how you want.
If something turns out to be a problem at some time in the future, I mean, that's, again, that's what we and the city council are here for, is to correct things like,
Right.
make, either fine tune it or.
Any other opinions on that?
I don't, Bethany, do you have any input on that? Help steer the
don't.
ship.
Yeah, it would be easiest to have them be the same. That's usually the easiest as far as administration and consistency. I think the difference is 10,000 square feet, I think,
Correct.
and so,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a benefit.
Would it significantly change a sewer design from that perspective if you have to have a licensed person, a designer and a builder? I mean, would it change it a whole lot?
You know, I think when you're building on a sewer lot, you're not worried about that, right? So you can build out, you know, and not have to worry about the location of that versus that's why you want those larger lots for the unsewered. But I think there's always been a focus on wastewater when we're dealing with these, you know, particularly our riparian lots, but you know, where the science is showing us more and more that, you know, the stormwater runoff, when not treated properly, has, you know, as much detriment to our water quality as does, you know, improperly treated wastewater. So again, larger lots, lower impervious coverage, you have more opportunity to manage your runoff better. I think, and as member, you know, Gary mentioned, the lots that we're dealing with now aren't the best ones anymore. And so, you know, the prime lots are no longer available. And so I think you would want those to be a little bit larger, so you have more room for being able to have some of that treatment before it heads off in the lake. So I really think at this point, I think larger lots really makes sense from a water quality standpoint for the city of Nisswa.
The one question I had is retroactively, if somebody's drain field failed and they would have to come back in and it wouldn't meet the lot standard, if we would change it, they would have to have,
It's the grandfather, it would be a legal nonconformity. There would be nothing that would preclude them from continuing use of the property.
okay,
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, this is, again, you know, as you do these ordinances, what we're talking about tonight applies for going forward for new stuff. What you've got today is what you've got today, and what's been already been approved is approved, and that gets to stay as it is. And if it becomes so that it doesn't line up with the current ordinance, that's fine. That's why we have a non-conformity provision in the ordinance to cover those parcels. So this is just for future new development. And I think from a water quality standpoint, it's gonna be a big win to go with those larger lots for newer stuff, but the existing lots get to stay the same.
any other questions, comments? Okay, we covered that. Yes?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, if there are no more questions, comments, I will entertain a motion.
I'll move that the Nisswa Planning Commission Board of Adjustment recommend adoption by the city council of ordinance amendment 004-23 to adopt an ordinance amendment modifying chapter 20 of the Nisswa Code of Ordinances. And this would be subject to the addition of a buildable area section that's excluded currently on the draft, so. And this would, again, I guess it's not according to staff recommendations or findings of fact, being this has been going on for the better part of a year or so.
Right.
Part of the record, part of the motion to approve is also to express, to point out our thanks to staff, Bethany and Chris Pence, for their work in getting us to this point.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Public record that way.
It's been a pleasure. So it really has.
If the motion gets denied.
Yeah, then we're in trouble.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Good
Thanks,
for the
everybody.
city and
It's been a
Nisswa.
lot of fun.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next item is conditional use permit 005-23 for the construction of a freestanding permanent commercial sign with dynamic display. The subject property is zoned highway business and is located at 23910 Hazelwood Drive South, PID 282-30504. Owner Sportland Holdings LLC, applicant Electro Signs.
Good evening. Good evening, City Council. I'm Billy Johnson from Electro Sign. I have Elizabeth and Jason back there, the Erlinsons.
Bethany, your staff report.
Thank you. As you know, Sportland Holdings has built a new bait shop located on Hazelwood Drive South. They are proposing to have a freestanding sign with a dynamic display. Our ordinance requires that they seek a conditional use permit to acquire that sign. All the proposed performance standards with the sign meet ordinance requirements for size and use and placement. So if you have any questions.
Do you want to briefly go over the project?
Well, it's just a standard project like similar to what DNH has got and what France and Bank has. The dynamic displays are, you can control the lumens and the brightness. Will be 20 feet high, standard DOT recommendations for that. We're within the standard, the top cabinet needs to be 128. We come in at about 122. And the bottom's 100 square footage. So we meet all those requirements. We would be breaking ground as soon as the frost gets up. Try to have it up for opening fishing for them at the bare minimum.
Okay. Questions that can start around the horn, Jesse?
Just put some concrete blankets down, get that thing going. I have no comments.
Thank you, Jesse. I have
John?
none either. It looks great.
I have no questions. Gary?
No, I have no questions. My comment, again, to Dave and his family and the Sportland people. You built a building there that makes Nisswa proud.
Yeah.
You know, it fits in. There's buildings at three corners there that we can all be proud of. And
right.
so you've done a nice job. And plus I did drive by the other day and I live fairly close to it anyway. And all of the signage around there exceeds our minimum square footages. And I think what you proposed for this building is in my estimation is right on. So.
Well, we appreciate that. We build first class stuff and we recognize the beautiful building that they have there. And we're gonna do quality work to make them proud of it too. It's important. They've been a business owner in this area for 47 years. And we take a lot of pride in the stuff we put up. We're a national national sign company. Done with tractor supplies in Pine River. I could give you a list of stuff we do around here. We're on a first class organization and our clients are some of the nicer people in this area. So we're excited to do work for them.
I'm sure it'll match the building perfectly.
And it's not just a bait shop anymore.
Yeah.
It's an outdoor sporting store. Now I can tell my grandpa who has coffee with your grandpa or breakfast for the past couple decades that I did him justice. So I don't think we have any more comments.
John, David, any questions, comments?
No, sure.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that the planning commission approve the conditional use permit request and staff recommends the planning commission adopt the findings of fact and with the items shown on the staff report.
And the two conditions, did you say that?
With the two conditions, yes, that's shown on the staff report. Did I use the word approval? Yes.
I'll
Approval.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll have you stay up there for the next one. So variance 006-23 for the placement of two permanent commercial wall signs, each exceeding the allowed square footage. The subject property is zoned highway business and is located at 23910 Hazelwood Drive South, PID 282-30504, owner Sportland Holdings LLC, applicant Electro Signs. Okay, so can we go through why the variance is necessary?
Absolutely. I would just, first and foremost, I would just stick to my one precedent is it's visually obstructed. If you look at visually obstructed, I can read the definition of it to you. It means any fence, hedge, tree, shrub, device, wall, structure between the elevations of 4 feet and 8 feet above the adjoining curb height or above the elevation of a gutter line of street edge where there is no curb as determined by the planner and so forth, located at a street, drive, or alley intersection as the legal as to the limit of the visibility of pedestrians, persons, or motor vehicles, said street, drives, or alleys. If we take a look at just basically where the awning is for Holiday Gas Station, where the water park slide is, pretty much the south side coming this way, the building sign's gonna be obstructed if it is not bigger. On the other side, you have to come down considerably down, maybe halfway down, I would say, Hazelwood, before you're gonna be able to get that. So if you're coming from 77th from Grandview and turned right away, you could go right past it because the obstruction's there. So, and like I told my girlfriend jokingly, they've been in business for 47 years. I thought this would have been decided at the Pickle on Saturday. You know what I mean? They're really good for the neighborhood. Obviously, they're building a first class building there with the legal obstruction that's valid. And the fact that they've been in business for 47 years in this town. I feel like it should be an automatic. Definitely based off of there's from this coming south. You can't see it at all because the trees, hedges, and the awning. And then again, the multiple obstructions on the other side. So I believe is valid enough for the council to approve this. My owner of my company CEO was gonna attend, but he said that there was no Zoom link today that he could find on your website. So I know that he had some statements to make. We don't believe that any of the questions that are asked, it doesn't violate anybody. It doesn't obstruct Holiday from doing business. It encroaches on no one, no other business. The only people that are really being hampered a little bit is the visualization of the bait store coming down from 77 and coming south on 371. And also the fact that they do not have an exit or an entrance on 371. That creates a little bit of an extra workaround to get into their property, and we believe the bigger signage. And as you see the new sheet that I brought up there with the dimensions of the property on there, it conforms to the building better. I know that we're supposed to be within the 5% or 100 square feet. Well, them signs are 96.2.5. Granted, under what Bethany told me, we're encroaching on the 5%, I think, to about 10%. Is that correct, Bethany?
That's about right, yeah.
So
So
we are asking for something double. But then we're also taking into consideration the complete blindsidedness of that side of the buildings. And then just the visual obstruction, legal presence of it. So we would hope that you guys would look favorable on that business to, they're building a first class one and we want them to benefit. I think that's about all I can add to that without repeating myself.
On the main sign, so the sign that goes on the building, it looks like there's gonna be downcasting light. on that side of the building.
Yes,
On the main area side, I mean, you already have the dynamic. There's no plans for any lighting on that top half of that
no,
sign,
that
is that right?
cabinet will have some push through LED lighting,
Okay,
which is, it's more backlit than it is. Like, it's different than lettering, like Schaefer's lettering stick out. These are kind of backlit where the letters stick out. So the aluminums or the brightness is a little bit less vivid.
okay. The only reason why I asked is that's part of the ordinance of having down
Yes,
gas. supply.
absolutely.
All right, any questions from anybody? Gary,
No, no.
David? No? Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
I'd move for approval of variance 006-23 for the placement of 2 permanent commercial wall signs, each exceeding the allowed square footage, and this would be according to the findings of fact in the staff report. And my comments along with the freestanding sign are the same. I think that the signage is going to match the building, and I think it's going to be an asset to the city.
Quick question.
Sure.
How big, how much of the square footage is this sign gonna be? It just says that,
The building side,
well, the one that we're voting on.
yeah, that,
It said each sign exceeding the allowed square footage, so how much are we gonna exceed the square footage?
well, we're not seeing the square footage at all. We're actually 4 feet under square footage
Okay, I just
Is-
read what's on here, sorry.
is what we're exceeding as the allotted signage square footage per wall width.
On this last one. okay.
So we're under the square footage, but over the allotted
About double.
percentage.
It's about double.
Yeah, but a little bit tad under the double, about 42% bigger.
We're gonna do a slightly different format for this last one, so I'm gonna be asking questions, and then I would like to be able to go through it as a commission to answer it before we do the motion. So is the variance in harmony with the purpose and intent of the ordinance? I would say yes.
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 Is the variance consistent with the comprehensive plan? I would also say yes.
Yes.
Is the property owner proposed to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the city of Nisswa Code of Ordinances?
Yes.
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 Is the need for the variance due to circumstances unique to the property and not created by the property owner, as you had illustrated? Yes.
Yes.
With the issuance of a variance maintain the essential character of the locality? Yes, the proposed sign would have no impact in the surrounding area in the new build, as you already had addressed, and it will be matching the exterior features of what's being built.
Absolutely.
We may have agreement on that.
Yes.
Does the need for the variance involve more than economic considerations? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, is there any other pertinent findings? I don't believe so. I almost forgot about that one. All right, so continue with the motion.
We need a second.
Yeah.
Would
Would you read the motion? Or,
We're just approving it
right, okay.
with the findings of facts. We just answered questions 1 through 6.
Right.
All yeses, and then the one condition listed by staff's
Right,
recommendation.
okay. Thank you. I shouldn't have you read back my own motion, I guess.
I'll second it.
All right, and a second by Sean. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed, motion carries.
Well, I appreciate your time today and thank you very much. Bethany, thank you very much for all the help earlier too.
Thank you.
Concrete blanket.
I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
I will second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Next item under new business is meets and bounds subdivision application 007-23. The applicant proposes to subdivide a 0.48 acre parcel, tract A, from a 2.75 acre tract. The proposed parcel is zoned urban residential and is located at 5397 Poplar Avenue, PID 281-10783. Derek Scollin, am I saying that right?
That's good. Yeah.
Good, close enough. Okay. And this is your address.
Cindy, yes, she's the draft company that's drafted
Yes,
a lot.
so Cindy Hitty with Stonmark Land Surveying up in Pequot Lakes. Do you need my address?
Okay, Bethany, your staff report on that one?
Yes, thank you. The property owner wishes to subdivide his property into a tract, removing a 20,712 square foot lot from a 2.7 acre tract as shown on the certificate of survey.
Right, you want to briefly touch on the parcel split?
Sure.
Either of
Go
you.
ahead. So we are creating a, just like Bethany said, a tract off of Poplar Avenue. It meets all the requirements of width and square footage of the current ordinance. And if you have any other questions, or Derek, you can add anything.
It's pretty straightforward, just doing a small subdivision, adding a extra lot.
Any questions from this side? Jesse, John,
I got none.
I got it.
Gary, John, Dave?
No.
No? Okay, I'll entertain a motion. Gary, you're the one.
You're up next.
Uh,
And then it's Danny.
I'll move approval of the meets and bounds subdivision application number 007-23. Again, according to the staff report and the conditions shown in the report.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on, old business, none, city planners report.
Oh. Thank you, Commission Chair. I met with Pam Dorian and the Nisswa Chamber of Commerce a couple weeks ago to discuss the off-site signage that is the temporary off-site signage in the downtown central business district. Just to get their idea, we've talked about this before as far as helping business owners that are off of Main Street be able to advertise legally closer to Main Street. We've seen that there's a significant need for this. We've done a few things. We've removed the temporary permit requirements, and we've got in the budget a small amount of money to go towards this. This was a project that was started by Brittany Cotner, and we're just kind of pushing this forward. So it was great to get to meet with the Chamber of Commerce. It was to get their feedback to see you know, what their thoughts were on it. And so Pam and I will be working to present a plan to the Planning Commission, hopefully soon.
I also did reach out to Pam and said that I'd volunteer my time to help with the design and stuff with that as well.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's, you know, not good to do, or if I can or can do it, but I just wanted to let you know that.
Okay.
You can break ground and stick the shovel in the ground. Take the first scoop.
Yeah, there you go.
Where's the location that she's thinking about?
Two locations on the north side of the Chamber building and on the south side of the Chamber building.
Not somewhere facing Highway 371?
No, these are just basically two small, very Nisswa looking, very aesthetically in keeping with what downtown already is, just to point out things like Lake Latitude, Fun Sisters, the bike store, Moxie. We've got all of these businesses kind of off the beaten path.
Got it.
And we would like something to help the Legion get some visibility. I know there's a need for that. They've had a sidewalk sign out on city property. And these sidewalk signs that are on city property are an illegal use. And so being that they're there and they've always been there, the city's standard up until this point has been to just go through and remove them daily. I'm looking for a more permanent solution that helps everyone. We're not here to try to stop businesses. We're here to try to help business. It's the chamber's job to help businesses, right? But I think we can meet halfway, and then hopefully we can get rid of the prevalence of the prohibited signs that are in downtown.
She made a point, I think it was February's council meeting in regards to some objectives that the council, or excuse me, the chamber would like to try to get forth in front of the council. One of them was actually like a digital advertising billboard. I spoke to her offsite about what she kind of had envisioned. Did you guys discuss anything in regards to that?
I haven't, digital display or dynamic displays are not an allowed use in the central business district. So
Oh.
she would either have to rezone the parcel, or it would have to require a zoning ordinance change.
Well, I've thought about it quite a bit too. I mean, we have a huge conduit for traffic going through here,
Mhm.
passing to go, how far north. So on, but if there was a digital billboard, her point was it would be able to then have some then promotion for businesses, but also then have city alerts. So anything that's going on, there can be an actual notification to those that are passing by. There's a parade today. Do not go down Poplar. You're gonna get stuck. Just keep going, right? Various things like that. I think it'd be worthwhile to at least consider what the benefits would be if we were to do that. Identified location that she'd spoken about was as you're coming in northbound on 371, when you take the right to go down the roundabout, it's a pretty wide open chunk there by memory. I think the DNR owns that land, if I'm not mistaken. It's in between.
Which piece is that?
It's in between.
On the north
371
or
and
south?
Main.
North.
North.
After you've made the turn to, at the light. Yeah, north side of that property. or the
You
south
got
side?
Google?
The snowmobile.
The Snowmobile Club owns property on the right.
Yeah.
On the left,
On the south,
Uh,
south side,
north,
south.
right, but I'm referring to the north.
Oh, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, and I think that's in our property, isn't it? I think he's.
So it's north of the lights. No,
I'm gonna spare some words here because my voice obviously is shot, so
Be interesting to
let's see what,
owns
let's
that.
see what Google pulls up and then I can drop a pin. Spoken way too much today, I'm not sick though, that's a good sign.
I think having something out there as you're coming in that area of the traffic light.
Yeah.
I think makes sense,
You're right,
from a public
well,
information standpoint, but
And that's-
having something downtown, like a dynamic display down.
right where your cursor's at,
That's-
just north of where your cursor's at,
Like asking to put.
that chunk right there.
It's not gonna happen.
Loses
You
that.
know.
It's loading very slowly, but I believe it is the city.
Where the cursor is?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is loading slowly,
great.
so we'll go slow. In my experience, dynamic displays draw very strong opinion from the public. And any consideration of a dynamic display, especially in downtown, the historic district, I would encourage a lot of public input. I would encourage inviting the public's opinion in that to see if that's the direction that the public, their use of surveys. But I've had situations where permits have been issued in certain areas and then because of the public outcry, they did not end up putting and installing that.
Well, Nisswa is Nisswa. Nisswa has this mystique that's been Nisswa's for 100 years, and to change it is, it's alluded to before, to ask for a billboard downtown, electronic billboard downtown is like, it's like trying to put a McDonald's in there, it's just, if you want World War III, that's gonna happen, so.
Yeah, and I'm not saying I think every avenue should be explored, and these things should be entertained. But it would be something I would strongly recommend getting the public's input right from the very beginning.
What kind of signage are you talking about with the chamber then?
That signage is going to be regular signage that can be changed in and out depending on what businesses, but basically we'll say, hey, go there.
Yeah.
Or hey, you'll want to head down there if you're going there. And so when people are walking along Main Street, they're able to just
Yeah, because those businesses over to the northeast from that intersection. Those businesses back in there kind of get short shifted.
they do.
Shortly from.
Yeah, and
People don't go back there if they don't know what's there.
Right, and we recognize that, Main Street is a great location
Yeah.
and people are on Main Street, and it doesn't mean that we have to provide avenues for everybody who's not, right? Main Street is Main Street and it is the preferred area. But there's an obvious need, and I think people coming to the area want to know where these shops are. They want to know where to go And so I think it would be a great service for everyone, for businesses, for the city, and for the public that comes.
The need has been there for years.
Yeah.
So it's a
Yeah.
good thing that it's happening now.
I'm sorry, Jesse, this is not loading up at all. I'm gonna pull this over here and see if I can't.
No problem. City of Nisswa, isn't it?
It says Minnesota Government Lands is all it says on.
Oh,
Okay,
so,
that works.
DNR.
so it's DNR or it's gonna be MinDOT for the highway?
Yeah.
Either or.
Yeah, so
What is this? What is the setback from 371 from the center line?
Just no.
from 371.
Yeah, what is the standard for 371? I don't even know.
It changes depending on, so that's something that we would want to contact MinDOT about.
Okay.
Our setback from a parcel that, well, that one actually does not go alongside. You've got this parcel right here. This would be a city road. So we'd have city setbacks there. So it is possible. It is city-owned property.
You're well far back from the road right of way.
Mhm.
I think that's
You'd
a
have
separate-
county road right of way on the south.
That's a separate study that would be worthwhile, I think.
I think it would be too, because we have a lot of businesses down here that would definitely like to try to,
Oh.
it could be a revenue source of some sort.
Right away.
Based off of advertising screen time per se, but also with the amount of announcements that the city could then have through that. What would it look like? How pretty, how ugly? That is all up for debate, but I do know that there is overwhelming request from chamber businesses for additional advertisement. How much of a burden that is on the city? It's up for debate.
Yep.
But we're there to support and work with our friends and neighbors, so,
Those three parcels right here, right along the highway,
yeah.
are owned by the state of Minnesota Department of Transportation.
DOT.
So those right here.
Okay. I got nothing else. Good job, everybody, on the shoreline ordinance revision.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah, it's
Should
I
give
think
Chris
it's
a
something that the city can pat itself on the
So-
back
Yeah.
for with our new.
appreciation or something.
And if you read through the DNR's conditional approval letter, it was conditional, based on that we continue. We have some commercial properties, we have other areas that lie within shoreland, and the understanding, with them is that we are going to continue these revisions. So this next fall, we'll start again, and get to work on that. Along with some potential zoning map changes. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Oh, I did have a concerned citizen call about a drive-in pier dock being installed on Round Lake. They are definitely not happy about that, similar to what Bar Harbor has, so.
A what?
Driving.
Wood pile
Piling.
dock,
Oh,
being
permanent-
installed.
Permanent. dock.
permanent dock. Looks like it's going out like 150 feet from what they're able to see.
It's a big, like Cragen's where they park their
right.
house there. in the boat or
That's
something,
right.
You know, that's a permanent structure.
That's right.
Bar Harbor has a little bit more protection
Yeah.
than a lake does.
Round Lake, 150 feet out. Do we have any potential protection for snowmobilers in the wintertime? Do they need to have flashing lights on set up like this?
That is a good question. I spoke with the area hydrologist, and I also spoke with Conservation Officer Jim Gaida concerning that dock going in. We did have quite a few calls. And so right now the DNR is monitoring it. Both, like I said, the area hydrologist as well as CO. And at this point, per the plans, it does not even require a permit. It is an allowed use. And so, but it is being monitored, so we can,
Who's the dock for?
Michael Carpenter.
Jethro
Private-
Carpenter.
Private resident?
Yes, private residence. Mhm.
Jethro Carpenter.
Yes,
On the
Sound
north side,
familiar?
on the north side of Round Lake then.
correct.
Oh.
Yep. And so Jim and I were talking, and the kind of general consensus is that as the wealth of the area increases, chances are we're going to see more of those.
Oh, boy.
Drop a big enough boat in there, the water level's gonna rise.
It's a big change, and I share the concerns with the snowmobiling in the winter and with lighting and those provisions. However, those are surface water ordinance concerns, and those are DNR concerns.
Yeah, those things almost should have some blinking lights on them. 24/7.
Exactly. Well, I'm just curious on how, I mean, if there's, I mean, in the springtime, if you get big ice sheets, they have power. I mean, I didn't know that you could even do, I mean, Bar Harbor does it because they're really protected in there. I mean, there's no way there's gonna be an ice sheet that pulls those up, but if you get a big one and a good wind coming to the north, which happens, you could get that whole thing chunked.
Reagan pilings are down about 30 feet
Really?
for that big houseboat, you know, the dinner boat.
Yep. Well, that's protected though. I mean, it's not on just,
Oh, it's right down.
yeah,
No, they get the ice there too, but
interesting.
they're that big around you.
Would it be worthwhile exploring what type of regulations we could try to put in place for either oversight slash. I don't
We
want to say the
could.
word prevention, but,
Right.
you know, you add another 50 of these types of dock structures. Surely changes what the shoreline looks like. And I'm a lake resident and I would be a little bit concerned for my safety if it's not adequately marked for all those tourists that are coming through boating. There's safety concerns with this, and I think it should be looked into.
Do we have any jurisdiction on the water like that? Or is it all?
No, we don't.
No.
No, we don't. However, there are certain provisions that say, as long as you're meeting local ordinance provisions as well. There's something I can look into to see if we do have any ability for further regulations, but at this point,
Well, the DNR already has standards for the most part. I mean, that's already in place. You can't just put in whatever you want.
correct.
I guess I just didn't realize what was so bad with the standard 10-foot section of aluminum dock these days. What a pain to take it in and out, right? So let's drive in 12-inch diameter wood piles 30 feet down on the ground and leave it there for the next 40 years. And I echo the concern of the neighbors. I mean, that's something that's going to be out there permanently. It's not, it alters permanently a water landscape that is governed by the state.
I will just make a note on the lighting because I have a friend that owns a resort and they have those big docks and the lights get covered by snow, drifts and
Oh,
things like
true.
that. So they actually stick those orange flags in them. They wrap it around and put the
Yeah.
orange flags so they stand up at least 3 feet or something,
good.
but, and they have the little reflectant tape on the poles themselves, but
Mhm.
with winter, it blows and covers it up. So it's really hard
Right.
to kind of mandate some of that.
I did find this fact sheet today. Do I need a permit for my dock? There is a line I highlighted here that says the structure is consistent with the guidelines of the local unit of government. I don't know if that implies us. I don't know if that implies the shoreland or the surface water ordinance as the local or as the LGU in that instance. So I would have to look into that. I unfortunately don't know the answer to that.
That's okay. I think it's just worthwhile considering, seeing what we can, you have some contacts now that you recently spoken to at the state DNR level, so. See
I've
what else
worked
we
with
can-
Jim before, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yep,
yeah.
fair. All right. I got nothing.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.